Okay, so I'm not sure if I got it working better today or not, but well, I guess we're going to find out. Now, again, I'm supposed to reintroduce myself briefly. So I'm Crystal, and I'm telling Christina's story. Well, not the actual story from the book. I'm telling the real life story of the character Christina from the Crank books, which is me. Hi. Um, now, I want to actually clarify something. Yesterday, I was so frustrated with the camera that I got my timeline a little skewed, being that me and James in our first round we were not pregnant with Caleb yet. Um, and I didn't even think about like the timeline. It's hard to remember where everything was, but we were not even pregnant with Caleb yet. Because Caleb and Clyde are about 4 years apart. So the we when the first breakup was about 2 years in, and I didn't even think about it. It was just it gets confusing when you're trying to put it all in order, and you've done a lot of drugs in between. But so I did want to clarify that. Um, so after we got Clyde back from Child Protective Services, um, James admitted to me that um, him and Joey had gotten high a few days before. And I was like, I can't believe you. Why would you do that? And he said, well, I feel like God intervened and he wanted me to get high. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? He said they were out drinking at the bar that's attached to that hotel they were staying at. And they were walking back and they found a fist sized amount of meth in a baggie. Someone had probably thrown while they were running from the cops or something. And they picked it up. And instead of turning it in, he was like, well, I tasted it to see what it was, and I knew exactly what it was, and I figured, well, it was already in my system, so I might as well get high. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Now, he did not admit to me what he did with the rest of it, whether he did it or sold it or got rid of it or whatever, but the fact remains that he did admit to that one time. And I wouldn't let him see Clyde for a while because he was acting super weird, which is I guess what he does when he's high. And eventually he went through like a kind of a self-imposed program and went back to counseling and got temporarily sober. Now, after he did this, we were split for close to a year, I think, and he talked me into giving us another chance. So by this time, he had gotten a condo out in Green Valley, and also owned by Lance family, actually by Lance himself, which was his boss. And again, it was his boss's mom's house that we were staying in before. So ironically enough, he had a condo as well, and talked him into letting him rent it out. By this time, he was on the surface doing what he was supposed to, and I was like, okay, well, then we'll give it a chance. And so I moved back in with him. Set it up with my roommates, made sure they could pay the bills before I left the big house. And I left the bills on for them and stuff so they wouldn't be left without power or anything like that. And I moved into the condo with James. It became obvious to me pretty early within the first month, that he was sneaking around and getting high behind my back, and I called him out on it. And I thought he was going to fight with me or deny it, and he admits it. And he told me it's none of my effing business. And of course, that set me into an uproar. And after that day, he proceeded to get high in front of me. Now, I don't mean just get a little high. I mean, he brought friends over and they would all smoke right in front of me on the couch, and I stayed sober. He brought a crack whore into the garage and locked the door for 4 hours, saying, oh, they're just out there getting high. But this same crack whore admitted that she likes to take her teeth out and give people blowjobs for free, even though she also charges for them because it gives her great pleasure to give blowjobs for free. And screamed at me for daring to be upset about that. He got to extremes very, very quickly, to the point where he made me go buy dope for him. He kept taking my car all the time, just punking me for my keys and taking it from me. He got abusive, started hitting me and choking me and things of that nature. And every time I spoke out for myself, I ended up getting beat up. And he made me go score some dope for him. He basically told me, look, I'm drunk, and if you don't go get it for me, then I'm going to take your car and I'm going to drive it drunk and I'm going to get it myself. And he left me with no choice. Either the prospect of having a wrecked car that I couldn't afford to pay for again, or to just go get it for him. So I started holding that bag in my hand and got it all the way home, and I still stayed sober. But every addict has their breaking point, and I broke and I relapsed. Wasn't for a long time, a couple of months tops, but I broke and I started getting high with it. I was left out. I was more and more just yearning for it as it was dragged across my face over and over and over again. And that's probably not an excuse. There's no excuse except for that I'm an addict and I can only handle so much. I only have so much strength in me. And this relapse I told nobody about. Nobody. James was the only person that knew. My friends didn't know. My family didn't know. Nobody knew. And I managed to keep that one a secret. But I was ashamed of myself and feeling terrible. And then I got pregnant with Caleb. And I was immediately able to quit. That time, there wasn't even really a struggle because I was already feeling terrible. And I found out I was pregnant and I was done. And I also started thinking, well, God, I got to get out of here. The Caleb was born while I was still there, but we left very shortly after. Couldn't take it anymore. James got sent to jail. He had gone and got a gun, even though it's illegal for me to have a gun in the house ever. And he went and bought a gun, and he had it locked in his gun safe, but he insisted on having it. He carried it around, told all his friends about it, and one of the last straws when he got himself thrown in jail again for actually it was for domestic violence against me. I didn't call the cops, somebody else did, and they took him. And then he expected me to just support him and lie to them and tell them he didn't do it and all kinds of other stuff. And I was already on the fence at that point. And the last straw was his supposed friend Joey broke into the house, went up on the balcony while I was gone and stole his gun. And he told me who wanted it. I knew who did it. I called the police and said I was house sitting and that I was just checking on his belongings and the door was open and the gun was gone because I didn't want to get arrested for living there. So I just told him it's my boyfriend's house and I was house sitting while he's in jail. And there was a report filed, but nobody ever found that gun. And that's how street guns are made, And then Joey comes a couple days later and he knocks on the door and tries to act like he thinks James is home, and and I wouldn't let him in. I had the door cracked and he pushed his way in and sat on a chair and pulled me onto his lap and tried to get me to have sex with him, which I did not allow. I slapped him. I got him out of the house. It was a struggle and I did not come out unscathed, but I got him out of the house. And James got out shortly after that, and we got in another big fight. He threw me out of the house barefooted with no car keys, no purse, no nothing, and he told me to leave with my car locked in the garage and my kids in the house, or my kid in the house. I think Caleb was barely just born by this point, so I want to say kids in the house because he was a little baby when we left there. So so the kids were in the house. He was seriously just sitting there holding them, looking crazy, and I was screaming and pounding on the door, and the cops were called again. And the cops made him let me in and get my kids and my car and some of my stuff. And then my friends came from the house that I left them renting, and there was a big old showdown that day. All kinds of stuff happened that day. I can't even remember in what order, but it was a shit show. And so I ended up leaving there. And then I'm like trying to remember what I did next, but because I can't remember for some reason where I went to live when I left there. And it's so weird. But I know I was on my own, And I may have gone back to the big house for a little while. Is what I'm thinking. It's what is making me think that. And then I moved out on my own, um, because I remember getting in a big fight with Kelly at the big house and stuff, and so I'm just trying to put everything together. Um, oh no, I remember it was a my mom helped me get into an apartment over on Flamingo, 2 bedroom apartment, so we were out on our own, and then and from I stayed sober. I took care of the boys. I went back to work for the newspaper. I worked for the newspaper for 11 years, and it was for the most part really good money, and a really good job, and you can make your own hours and do whatever you wanted, so it was kind of awesome. But I wasn't working because I was on maternity leave, and I ended up going back shortly after. And um, and then um, James ended up getting thrown out of the condo because he kept going to jail. And he goes and he moves a block and a half down the road from me at a weekly, um, trying to, say, well, I just want to see my kids. But one night I brought them to see him. I wasn't going to leave them there because he was not in his right mind. He was obviously still high and not showing any signs of quitting. So I brought them over there. I was ready to leave. The baby needed to be breastfed. I wanted to go, and he basically snatched the baby up, shoved me and Clyde out of the house. And remember, Clyde is a toddler at this point, and shoved us out of his hotel room and locked himself in there with the baby. I called the police. They finally got him to open the door. They basically said there wasn't anything they could do, but they also suggested that he give me my baby. And he eventually gave in and gave me him. And after that, I wouldn't let him see him. And it's because he was dangerous and he had a potential for danger, and he kept getting worse and worse. I mean, he accused me of having sex with people that lived in the walls when we lived together. These are the things he beat me up over, saying that I was all the way back in upstairs, through the big bedroom, through the closet, and in the bathroom getting ready for work after we'd just been cuddling on the couch and having a good day. And he comes barging in and he goes, I heard you say that. And the things that he said, he heard me say, I don't really want to say on here. I probably will say in my book, but it was terrible. It was about blowjobs and how disgusting I thought it was, and a lot of stuff. It was terrible. Okay. And so I was able to kind of stay away from him. I had a good resolve at this point. I was sick to death of him, and he just kept getting worse and worse. He even, after a while, I got tired of him being so close, and we were freaking out. So we moved out to Henderson, and some of my friends ended up moving out to Henderson too. So we had a good place at that point. And his mom lived out in Henderson, and apparently he had gone out to stay with his mom and didn't know we were out there, but happened to be cutting through the alley where my car was parked and recognized it because of the dent in the back of it, and started letting out the air in my tires, and then just leaving me with no car with his kids. And he did it twice, and the third time I put the word out. I told all the cute little neighborhood hood rat kids that were all those super friendly and nice kids. And I told them there's a $50 reward for anyone who can catch this guy, either get a picture of him so I know who he is, or take me to him when it happens. And he came through and tried to do it again, removing the valve stems from all my tires, and they were old tires, so I had to replace tires and everything because they were cracked from it. And they came running and got me one day. I dumped the kids with Annie real fast, and I ran after them, and I was able to catch him going down the alleyway. I'm like, and I'd never ever in a million years thought it would be him of all people, but I saw his long hair, and I was like, oh my God. And I was on the phone with 911 while I was following him, so they got him on that one too. And then he tried to blame me for that, like it's my fault, like I did something wrong, After that, I never really heard from him. Actually, years later, I heard from him briefly on Facebook, just asking how the boys were. Apparently, he'd been through jail and programs, and he was trying to get his life together. But I don't think he really ever did, or he would have tried to see the boys and stuff later. But think that's where I'm going to leave off for off today, because that's a good stopping point. And I will see you guys on Monday. I'm going to miss you over the weekend. Don't forget to like and share like crazy. Let's get the word out there. I have a friend helping me with some editing and whatnot here, so hopefully we can get something good together, make my stories a little more interesting. And I do apologize about, I was trying to get my brother, that was a surprise. My brother was coming over yesterday and I was trying to get him on camera to do just a little mini interview, say hello, but he's going through, he was an addict for, since just recently, within the last year, and he's going through a lot of depression and struggles, and he just wasn't ready to get on camera, so I apologize about that. I did try. Maybe one day he will feel comfortable. He's working on it, he's doing his best, and at least he's staying sober, and that's what really counts. So all right, it was good talking to you guys today, and I will see you soon. Have a great weekend.